Hi everyone, it's Mark Morley, the anxiety expert here at Newcastle Hypnotherapy today, and we're answering a few more of your questions. Thank you for your questions. Do keep them coming in. Today we're going to explore how to manage anxiety and panic attacks. Lots of people ask this question all the time, and it's really useful, especially when we can move and make things feel a bit better for people. So first of all, please do keep your questions coming in. I've got a load more questions we'll answer at the end of this. We really love your questions. It helps us to know what to do with these little videos. So keep them coming, and I've got more at the end of the video. If you'd rather not send me a question but wanted to talk to me personally, you can always book a free strategy session at the link below, which gives you about 15 to 20 minutes just to have a chat with me, and we do things personally, and it helps an awful lot of people. Okay, so managing anxiety and panic attacks. So you have to understand that anxiety is perfectly natural. It's a natural part of our defense mechanism that when there's danger or risk, our anxiety alerts us and makes us feel a bit strange so that we can deal with things. It's not really needed as much today because we don't get chased by lions and tigers down the street, or not where I live anyway. So the idea is that sometimes anxiety, because of something that's happened in the past or something we're just producing in our mind, causes us to feel constantly anxious. And when it's constantly anxious, that's when it gives us health problems, because it takes our immune system way down. The digestive system's not working. We age much faster. And then anxiety attacks or panic attacks are caused when we get totally overwhelmed. It's when those levels of anxiety go way over that 1 out of 10, it goes way up to the 10, and sometimes it goes over, and we just stop. We just break down. We can't do anything in some cases. It might be that we get palpitations, our heart might be pounding, we get pains in the chest, we get headaches, we can't sleep, we're sweating, we can't think properly, and there's all sorts of things going on. And as I mentioned, when we get to that point, a lot of our other vital systems are just not working, and we need to get out of that as quickly as we can. So I'm going to give you some tips to manage that when it gets like that. Now, what's important is that you don't stay with anxiety for long periods of time. We work to help people to eliminate anxiety, to get rid of it for good. And it's great to manage it and sort it when it comes, but if it's becoming a regular problem, you do need to sort it out, whether you go off to the NHS and get a load of medication, or whether you decide to do it yourself without the problems. So some tips to help with it. First thing you want to do is don't react to your anxiety, just examine it. And that sounds a little bit silly, but as soon as you feel that anxiety coming on, just say to yourself, oh, this is interesting. What is this telling me? Where is it? Why is it telling me these messages? And then what can I do to make it stronger or weaker? So that's really interesting, in that if we examine something, it's almost like we move our position from where we are to looking inwards and saying, what's going on with all of this anxiety? And that's really weird, but it works, because once we start to examine it, we change our whole relationship with the anxiety. And a lot of clients tell me that when they learn to do this, they feel so much better for it. So just do that, start to examine it. Where is it? What color is it? What's it telling me? What can I do to make it stronger? What can I do to make it weaker? And that's a really interesting, so play with it, okay? The second thing that you can do, and this is a real important thing, is to change your breathing. Now, while you're examining your anxiety, you'll usually notice that you're breathing in a very shallow way in the top of your chest, short little breaths, where you should be breathing with your belly. That belly should be moving in and out, should be nice, slow, deep breaths. So if you change your breathing to long breaths, breathing out more than you're breathing in, but just being conscious that you're not breathing in short breaths, and try different breathing methods, you'll find that's a really good way for changing that anxiety. And if you look on our YouTube channel, we've got 1 or 2 videos there about changing your breathing and which ones really work. There's some really good ones there, so do take the time to look for that. The third thing you can do is say to yourself, how would I rather feel? And this is a bit of a trick, because first of all, instead of focusing on what you feel now, you're focusing on where you want to be, how you'd rather feel, and it totally changes the dynamics. So just say to yourself, how would I like to feel? So if you feel anxious with pains in the chest and shortness of breath, you could say, I'd rather feel happy and smile. Say to yourself, I'd rather feel relaxed and calm and breathing deeply. And you're taking your mind totally off what's going on, but focusing on where you should be. And there will be times in your life where you felt absolutely calm and totally relaxed. And maybe you want to think about those times and examine those a bit more. Okay, that's a nice one to do. And then finally, change your physiology. That's how you're standing, your posture. Quite often, when people have anxiety, they're hunched over. Of course, they're breathing the wrong way. You know, that they're not looking directly up, they're looking down. So change your physiology. Start to look up. We know when people are depressed, they look down. But positive people seem to look up, they look higher. It's the same as when we go into hospitals and we're feeling awful, and there's all these signs in the ceiling telling us where to go, and people are constantly asking that receptionist, how do I find X-ray? Because they don't look up, they look at the floor. So it's quite interesting. If you watch depressed and anxious people, you'll see the same patterns. So the idea is you want to change that. So one of the best things you can do is just get out and go for a walk, do some exercise, get on your skateboard or your scooter or your trampoline. Trampolines are great. You can't fail to go on one of those little trampolines and not feel good and smile. But you need to change that physiology. It's no good just sitting there watching the telly. Get up and move and do something different. You might want to go dance around the kitchen, wash the dishes, whatever it is, but just change the way that you are. But your posture and your movement are so important. If you feel bad when you're doing one thing, go and do something else, and it's much, much easier. So there's 4 little tips there how to manage your anxiety attacks. They're very simple, but they're also very powerful. And like everything that I teach you, if you are to get into them and practice them on a regular basis, it compounds every day, and suddenly you start to feel so much better. So that's what you need to do, is to get in and practice, because if you want things to change, you have to change. Those old habits and patterns aren't serving you if you've got anxiety problems. But if you change it and move into new things, you'll find things will change for you. So that's really important. Practice makes it so easier. So to answer some more of your questions, as I said before, do keep those questions coming in. We do love them. So first question is, does alcohol help? And the bad news, folks, is no, it doesn't. You might have that first glass and you feel an awful lot better. And you think, oh, great, and it relaxes me. And then you have another one and another one. But actually, it's a bit of a cheat, because alcohol is known to push the anxiety up. The amount of people who ring us up and say, I've got anxiety and I feel so much worse after I've had a drink. And sometimes it can change things for up to a week's time. But sometimes we use alcohol to take our anxiety and stress and everything down. We're told all the time we need alcohol to relax. You don't actually. And I'm exactly the same. I love a good drink. But we know long-term, alcohol does not help with anxiety. It makes it much, much worse. So it might be you want to try something new, maybe a nice juice or a herbal tea. Avoid coffee. That doesn't help at all. But try and find something else. But alcohol really doesn't help. So try some alternatives instead. Okay. Now, my anxiety, the next question, is caused by someone at work. Now, that's an interesting one. That comes across very much like a phobia. You know, somebody, my dad, for example, will see a spider on the wall and his feet are up on the chair, and he gets my mum to come in and take the spider away. He's worse than me with spiders. He's absolutely terrible. So what happens there is that we might have had a bad experience, or we've just got a fear known as a phobia, but then we start to react to the situation and we get anxious. And that's all a spider phobia is. Now, if that's happening with somebody at work, we need to look at the situation. It could be that we've had a bad circumstance, a bad experience with that person, and they've bullied us, or they've just not got on with us. So we need to change things around. And usually in therapy for something like that, I would teach people to look at it a different way. You would say something like, why is this person nasty towards me? What problems has this person got? And sometimes when you've got people who can't communicate with you, or just don't communicate at all, they've got problems, they've got issues, and there's very little you can do about it except how you react to it. So I had a really good example, a lovely lady who had that problem with somebody at work, and we just changed the whole situation. We said, right, we're going to go in and we are going to be the most positive, nice person, always say hello to this person, always be really nice to them. And if they choose to be a miserable bugger, let them get on with it. And it changed the situation. That lady then felt so much better about it, and she wasn't afraid to be in that office anymore. So that's how we need to do that. We need to change how we react. And again, this is all about managing those mental states. Next question. Why do I only have anxiety in the morning? Now, that's a really interesting one. And to me, that would suggest it's something to do with diet. There could be something that you're consuming in the nighttime so that when you wake up in the morning, you've got anxiety. It might be there's a mental process happening while you're asleep or just before you wake up. But I'd usually put money on diet. And that's why with a lot of the anxiety clients is that we get a full food sensitivity test done just to see what's going on. It might be we need to stick some vitamins or minerals in there. We might need some good probiotics. If the gut flora is wrong, it can cause this sort of thing, and it can give us different fluctuations over the day. But a lot of people do find they have anxiety either in the morning or the same time each day, and that it can be worse in the morning and less in the evening or the other way around. So that's something really to look at. If you need any help with that, give us a shout. Why has lockdown made anxiety and stress worse? Well, that's quite an easy one. We've seen all this bad news. The news has just gone on and on and on. And I saw a lovely little cartoon the other day of a door with July on it, and people are prodding it very gently with a stick because they don't know what's going to come through it. And that's the case. We have had bad news constantly. We've had all these fear stories. We've had all these conspiracy stories. And sometimes you just have to switch that rubbish off. You have to focus on positive things and the good things in life, no matter how bad it is out there. Realistically, we can't do much about it. Whatever Boris Johnson and Trump's doing about this lot, we can get annoyed about it, we can get upset, but I can't really make them change. So at the end of the day, I'd rather focus on some good music, a good film. Lots of people say that when they watch films, it can make them feel an awful lot better. Do things that are good for you. Get out on a jigsaw, get out on your bike, do some exercise, get out in the sun, a walk, the park, the beach, whatever it is. Just don't focus on the negative stuff over and over because it will bring you down. Okay. Why does my anxiety vanish on holiday but come back for the Christmas holiday? Well, that's a good one. So that could be that you are going on holiday, you're expecting to have a good time, and when we act as if, it changes things. So if we act as if we're going to have a good time and we know we're going to have a good time, we go somewhere warm and nice, you feel great and relaxed on holiday. So that's an easy one. You're changing your mental state, you're getting into it. And Christmas is an interesting one because we do the opposite. Although we really want to have a good time, a lot of people say, I always get a cold at Christmas. But at the same time, usually Christmas, you're wanting to make things good for everybody else. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of pressure. Usually you're catching up with things at work before you leave. And for the sake of one day, we go into overdrive. We spend money we haven't got, and we push ourselves over the edge. So Christmas really does push people. And I know with a lot of the clients we see, Christmas is never a happy time until they change things and they get things right. And then they feel so much better about it. So that's quite nice. So yes, holidays are great. Feel relaxed. The good thing about all of this is if you can go away on holiday and find the anxiety disappears, we can use that as a model to put on to another time. So if we can find out exactly what's going on when you go on holiday and there's no anxiety there, we can model that and use it as a way to eliminate the anxiety. I've seen that a number of times where people with severe anxiety have gone off to India and traveled around on their own in quite scary places and felt absolutely wonderful. There's other people find that they have severe anxiety, but when they get to the gym, they feel wonderful. And again, we copy and model what's going on in the gym, and we make that the mental pattern that works. So that's a really good one. Next question. Let me try and put this the best way, right? Anxiety and panic of not knowing who I am, trauma, letting that go. So I think what that's trying to say to me is I have anxiety and panic of not knowing who I am or what I'm supposed to be doing. So the first thing I'm going to say with that is, who decides who you are and what you do? And the answer has to be you. We're not sort of born, cut out to be a disc jockey, a hypnotherapist, an artist. We've got a choice of what we want to do in life. Quite often people get pushed into these roles by what the parents advise them and other people around them. But really, you've got to decide who you want to be. Not how you're going to do it, but, who do you want to be? Do you want to be an anxious, tense, stressed person? Or do you want to be somebody who's relaxed, who's constantly looking at personal development, who's looking for ideas and support of how to move forward? That's what you've got to decide in life. If you're constantly feeling jittery and nervous, again, that could be food. Could be a lot of things going on there. But we need to sit down at some point and just write out what it is we want to do, who we want to be, and then find a way to do it. And it's really weird because when people have a purpose like that, they can make huge changes. And what I suggest with stuff like that is to say, okay, I've got all these problems. What can I learn from them? And who can I support in the future? So quite often people have had massive problems and are held back. You look at people who have been disabled and suddenly realize that they can't do certain things anymore. Some of them really work and become much better people doing things they normally wouldn't do, becoming great business people. And I like to read autobiographies on stuff like this. There's a guy called Mark Osho, I think he's called. He had all sorts of problems and he was colored. He had such a hard time, but he created businesses that employed people in the smaller minorities who had problems and disabilities. So really, you've got to decide, who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? And then find a way to do it. And successful people do it. They look at it in different ways and they say, how am I going to achieve this? Some people just panic and give up. But I've seen other people who just say, how can I do this? We don't look at the barriers. We look at where we want to be. And that makes a big, big difference. So if you're online, do say hello to us and let us know where you're from. Just checking, have we got any more questions there? Because those are all the ones that I had written down. I think that's it for tonight. So thank you for watching this. I hope that's helped. Do keep those questions coming. If you'd like to work with me privately or discuss working with me privately, do set up a strategy session at the link below. It's a good chance for you just to spend 20, 30 minutes having a chat with me, telling me exactly what's going on. And at that point, I can tell you whether working with us would be the best option. Maybe there's another option. Maybe you can do this yourself. And also remember, we've got the YouTube channel. And again, the link is below. There's lots of videos and help on there. So by all means, get on, watch those, and let us know how you get on. And finally, we also run a series of workshops, which have just restarted, called The Secret Workshops on Facebook. If you'd like to join that group, I'll drop a little link down there as well. So thank you for that. Keep the questions coming, and we shall get busy with another live shortly. Take care. Bye.